and welcome to this. And yes, you are hearing my voice. This is actually happening. We are back to do the X-Men Roundtable decade by decade review. Now, of course, it has been almost a year since we last came to you. And the reason for that is me and Andrew have always been on board. We've always been trading messages. Anybody who follows me on Twitter have seen us going back and forth quite a few times over the last year about getting this started again. The trouble was, is we'd always, ask Ben or we'd ask somebody else, and we just would lose contact, or the person would be busy, or we'd try and bring somebody else on board, things like that, and things would just not fall into place time-wise or schedule-wise, or sometimes people just wouldn't get back to us. So we ended up just waiting for people to so long, and eventually last week we were just like, okay, let's just go ahead and do this thing. And not only let's do this thing on a more regular basis where it doesn't matter if anybody else turns up, we'll go ahead and do it. And for the last few, we'll do it at like 2-week intervals, so you guys will get it more often. The last few came out very far apart, and the last one especially has been a year, so we're saying, okay, let's just go ahead and do this on a more regular basis, and we'll start with this one. Now, I am Karl, as always, the host of this thing, and I am joined, as I said, by Andrew.
Hello, everybody.
And joining us on the roundtable this time, it seems like, just like the X-Men, the team is constantly changing, I should say. The team is constantly changing. We have with us a person who has co-hosted many podcasts with me in the past, was my original co-host on the Side of the Podcast Network for many, many years, and me and him did a comic show at one point, so he knows his comic stuff, I know that. Frank.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's been a long time.
Yes, indeed. So let's go ahead and get into it, shall we? So last time we left you, we were on the Grant Morrison era, where they tried to make it more like the movies, in that they went more in casual gear, the black leather, that kind of look. And why that does work for a movie or a television show, I don't think it works for the comics as well. I think that the comics need to have that vibrant, colourful look, and also at the same time, I think that the classic look of the characters will always be of affection. So yes, Wolverine's costume in the yellow and the black is pretty silly, and the blue. But that's Wolverine. That's what people think of when they think of that character.
Or the tan one. Or the tan guy.
Yeah, exactly. That's the classic look of the character. So, at the end of the day, that's the look that character stuck with. It's like Batman, you know what I mean? Like, yes,
yeah.
The black look from the movies, when they even put that in the comics at one point, the black look from the movies is more practical, does look more realistic, quote-unquote, but at the same time, the grey look and with all that is what people think of as Batman, and that's what's happened. Where and
it's still happening right now, though, with like the Avengers titles too.
Oh yeah, they're still trying to do that now. But there was a book in 2004, which was Joss Whedon's Atonishing X-Men, where Joss Whedon, who many of you, of course, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, lots of television shows, Firefly, things like that. Of course, now he's a huge megastar thanks to Avengers, so everybody knows his name now. But at one point, he came to Marvel and he wanted to do an X-Men book. So they said okay, and they gave him John Cassaday. So automatically, yes, this was the flagship title to begin with, but there's a reason this became not the flagship title, because it was coming out every 6 months to a year. We should call this the Atonishing Roundtable Podcast, because we're just as bad.
Yeah,
exactly.
So yeah, that's what happened later on. But to begin with, Gifted was the first storyline, and the main principle of the book was, we're going to go back to costumes. There was a line in the book from Cyclops where he says, we are a superhero team, and I think that was something that was forgot along the way thanks to the movies and things like that, is that X-Men are superheroes, so they wanted to get them back in superhero costumes. But what John Cassaday did, to give him huge credit, was he took the costumes and made them a little less silly. He made them look more, they gave them zippers and buttons, and Wolverine's costume looked like it was made out of sort of this armor almost, this Kevlar look, as opposed to spandex.
His boots weren't stabbing people, basically.
No, his boots weren't going up to his hip with their points. the points were rounded down, so they were a little more functional. So yeah, that was definitely a good thing that he did. And yeah, so it was basically, everybody went back to their classic costume. I mean, when I say classic costume, Cyclops went back to the skull cap even. Which he hadn't worn since, X Factor.
The same one, actually. It doesn't fit him that well. But
No.
I'm totally messing. I know.
Apparently he just wants to go swimming all the time, so he covers up his head. He put the skull cap back on and everything like that. So everybody had their classic look, but at the same time, more refined, a little more functional, a little more, not as silly as it became during the 90s.
Yeah.
Except for Beast.
Yeah, Beasts was a bit stupid with that. I'm not sure what it was, like I almost want to say a corset. Like, what was that?
Beast has never really had good costumes, though. Like, even like his most recent one, that looked awful. It was just like an engineering suit with like a bunch of just pads on it and stuff. That one was just like a pants thing. Like, he just had like a set of pants on. That was it.
That's the thing, is that Beast's best costume is when he's basically wearing just underwear. So
yeah. This is the best kind of thing I've got, kids. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, they tried to put him in. That was a bit weird. But apart from that, I mean, the crowning example is Wolverine's. Is that they took Wolverine's costume, which used to have all these giant freaking points, and especially during the the Rob Liefeld era and stuff like that, they'd overdo it. But now it actually it had that look, but it was a little more down to earth. They didn't have the underwear on the outside look anymore and things like that. And I think that this was. I was happy to see the costumes return, and I was happy to see them look better, so that you had a reason to say, yeah, they are still their costumes, but they do look a little better.
I think we mentioned this before too, where they always seem to go back to the Dave Cockrum costumes because that's just what defines the characters the most. And the more they try to shift away from those costumes, the worse they look, and they always go back to it. We already mentioned that before, like on an earlier podcast, I think. But yeah, I think this is
the worst for that. The 90s kept trying to reinvent the wheel with every character. I mean, the 90s was when we had Electric Blue Superman, for crying out loud. So if that era was trying to have Superman in a different costume, you knew they were trying to reinvent costumes at that point.
Yes. Like armor costumes and stuff. But yeah,
pads and pouches and you're right. Yeah, every time, every era, the X-Men always change costumes. They're like the most. They always are changing costumes, but they always go back to, if not those costumes, that look of those original, all new, all different costumes. They always do, yeah. And even Cyclops with the skull cap, he went right back to that. Because some people would think, I know because of the 90s animated series, maybe, that the most classic Cyclops look is the hairless with the yellow, strap thing.
Whatever the hell that was.
But no, they went back in further, and it always takes somebody who's like a big outside X-Men fan who grew up with those original comics, like Joss Whedon, to come in and say, "No, what are you doing? Why would they wear black leather trench coats? Costumes."
Well, he still had the Cyclops. Still had that coat though later on.
Yeah, he did.
He kind of changes to black even.
Yeah, to that too.
Well, that came along with how he darkened as a character, as we'll get into. But.
Oh, yeah. But, alright, I think costume-wise, they just made a good decision, right? Like, they mixed things together and made it look just right. And I think out of all the recent costume changes, this is one of the better ones of this generation. Because
this was going back to the classic look of all the characters. And, but at the same time, updating them.
Of course, yeah.
It was kind of what they're doing if you look at the Man of Steel costume in the new Superman movie that's coming out, is that it has that classic look of the character, but it's changed to look a little more in line with what he's supposed to be, with the more, age storytelling techniques. Of course, the other big part of this book was Emma Frost, for good or for bad, because of course what would happen later on, she would dominate the book. But at this point, Emma Frost became much more of a character. She became a part of she had been established during the Grant Morrison run, but this is where she became a full-fledged X-Men member, working with the team. I love Joss Whedon. She really got her character down, especially her interactions with Kitty, and the relationship between her and Cyclops was made popular in this book.
Also the whole thing with the jealousy for Jean Grey.
Yeah, they brought that in, yeah. And the other thing was that they gave, speaking of costumes again, they gave her the classic, it was the White Queen outfit, but not thongs. It was like, a superhero White Queen outfit. She got the cape back, she got the white look, but it was sort of these white tights and, what we think of when we think of the White Queen. she got that.
Just, the general scandalous kind of outlook for her. It did work.
Yeah, I think this is her best costume. I wasn't.
The current one looks awful, but yeah.
I was not a fan of, especially since she's the White Queen in black now. But I wasn't a fan of the Grant Morrison where she had like the taped on stuff where there was like the missing X.
She had super glue on her breastplate.
Yeah.
Sure they stayed
She
there,
had like a missing bit of X where it was a fleck. That was stupid.
That was all. It was. She was a great character in that run, but her costume was awful. But yeah, I think unfortunately, what's going on with Emma Frost now, her character isn't as treacherous, she isn't as mysterious, and she isn't as intelligent as bitchy she used to be. As she is now. Whereas back in Joss Whedon's run, she had a sense of mystery and intrigue to her, while still being like an interesting bitch. I don't mean to say it like that, but it's what she was.
She was a bitch, but she was a part of the team. That's what.
Yeah, of course.
Theory, yeah.
And she was a ton of fun to read during Grant Morrison's run, Joss Whedon's run. Whereas now she's just kind of, she's there. I don't have those fist pumping moments where Emma Frost does something cool like I did during those runs. So
I think that's a credit to. I mean, I know it's a revelation to say that now after the movie that came out last year, but Joss Whedon can write dialogue. Joss Whedon can write creepy dialogue, and Joss Whedon can write a team. Because I think the one thing about this is that everybody was in that team. It was a small team, granted, but everybody in that team got their moments and got their character stuff. Like, the Gifted was where Colossus came back, and Kitty and Colossus' relationship got highlighted, as well as of course Cyclops and Emma Frost's. So I think he did a really good job of what they didn't do a really good job of later on, of balancing out the script panel time, let's say.
What I think, like you said, the number of people in the team makes this book work and other team books work is when you know how the current Avengers book has like 28 characters in one title. Yeah. Like, it reads sporadically. You can't really focus on one thing. You don't have a character you like to follow because it keeps changing so much. Whereas with this book, there's like 6 or 7 members on the team, and there's an obvious person you can like or follow. It's not like 5 people look the same on this page and the other people don't. I don't know who to follow.
Yeah,
so
I hate to go away on subject, but it's funny you mentioned that. It's what they're trying to do with the current Avengers book. You know, like they've got a really big roster, but they will have storylines for 3 or 4 issues in which only 5 or 6 of those members are involved. So this is just probably people with the feedback and stuff like that just made them change the way they write the books, team books.
Yeah, of course. I know what you're talking about that.
But I do think that this was a good era for the fact that they got that right, where you'd have different people in different books. Whereas later on, I think it got to the point where it was Scott Summers, Emma Frost, and Wolverine in every single book later on.
Yeah.
Especially Wolverine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though some of his titles are okay right now, they're actually pretty enjoyable. He's still in everything, and you want to see other people get that moment in the spotlight.
I think they've improved lately. I think Bendis has done a lot to improve the X-Books.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, but as we touch on Gifted, the costumes, the Emma Frost thing, the return of Colossus, the introduction of Armor. She was introduced during this. A couple of students in the background. It was essentially the Cure again, but it's done in an interesting way with the whole break world thing, something like that. I think this was the launching pad for the era until the whole thing happened where they were exiled to Asteroid M and all that.
Oh, yeah. I think, to interrupt, I do think what kind of made this book excel, and a lot of people touched on this too, was the fact that they kept introducing new things to the book. Like with Colossus coming back and one of the better resurrection stories that I've seen a character come back in. Just the idea of, like you said, Break World, the new Sentinel, what happened to Danger Room, and I guess I didn't read the entire last story arc, but what happened throughout the course of this run with all these new things coming in, it made it interesting to read. You didn't know what to expect from it.
I think also it's the fact that they were like, you know what? All that stuff that's been happening over the last 10, 20 years has been stupid. Let's go back to the 80s. Let's bring back the classic characters and get rid of, the legacy virus and all that other stupid stuff that was done.
Yeah. And they did a good job with it. They excelled with it, and I think what also made the book, I keep saying that too, I keep introducing it with that, but Joss Whedon is very much so a very comedic kind of writer, and a very good flowing writer. He uses dialogue very well, whereas some writers might take up like a whole page with just balloons of just dialogue that don't make any sense, don't mean anything, whereas Joss Whedon can use like a couple pages to get that point down immediately. And I read too many books nowadays where writers try to be funny, and you can tell that they're really trying to make you get a laugh, and it doesn't come off very casually, it doesn't come off doesn't come off normal to you. But when I got people that are very good with comedy, that excel at it, and Joss Whedon's very good at comedy, and he made this book work with his dialogue.
He's great at doing comedy without doing comedy. He's great at doing character interactions, character moments. He knows these people. He knows that Emma Frost and Kitty Pryde hate each other, so when they talk to each other, it's got this kind of tension. You have that moment between Wolverine and Beast in this, where Beast wants to use the cure, which is a constant thing with him, where he wants to be normal again. And Wolverine wants to attack him for it. It's these great character moments that he excels at, which now everybody knows him for because of he did it on the Avengers. So
yeah, exactly. Well, he's been doing it for a long time. I mean, you mentioned Firefly before.
Oh yeah. He's just good at it. He just knows how to make it work, and which is what helped to make it more enjoyable. I don't want to say it's like a blockbuster story, but like a movie kind of comic book story.
It's a linchpin of the era of a return to a more superhero X-Men.
Of course, and it's one of the more memorable parts of the X-Men's history. This is going to be a staple in some of the best runs in the.
It quickly dropped off for me. I don't know about you guys, but the whole Danger, I'm not a fan of. The Danger Room coming to life into a humanoid form.
Yeah, actually, I didn't read. The thing about me in the Astonishing X-Men was I read the first story arc first, and I didn't pick up the third or the first story arc after that. I got lazy and just didn't pick those up. So the only one that I read was the second story arc. I don't know why I did it, but I actually really enjoyed it for what it was. Like the Professor Xavier moment that happened in it, where, he's in that little.
I like the idea of Professor Xavier knew that this AI had come alive, and he not matter. He's like, oh, you're still my training thing or whatever, because the Shi'ar technology or whatever. I like that. I have no problem with a sentient computer or whatever. It's the fact that he took a humanoid shape and started attacking the X-Men.
Yeah. The design of the character is
that's the thing. The whole story about the student, I think his name was Wing or something like that. Yeah. Somehow he flied. He committed suicide, and that's why the Danger Room got permission to kill.
Wasn't he cured during Gifted? Or he was hit with a cure, and now he.
Yeah, exactly. That was it. He was trying to fly again. And so the whole thing, the whole explanation about how it became sentient. It was cool, but as you said, the whole thing about taking physical form, and for some reason a robotic woman just,
It's still a character today. Danger's still around.
Yeah. She's still a huge part of the book.
I just always found that silly.
I always wish, I don't mind the character, I just wish they changed her design, because I do think it's a little bit kind of sporadic, but.
Yeah, why would a computer want breasts? You know what I
mean? To impress them. Dude, a lady wants to impress sometimes. She just wants to go for gold. But, I don't know. I guess she was just interested in doing it. Or it was interested in doing it.
I'm wondering why they've never done, a thing with her and Legion. Since he's back.
I don't know.
Well, actually, they did a thing with her and Forge.
Oh, good.
Which was really weird.
Oh, good
really?
God.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be a metaphor for, guys.
Not a relationship, but just, sexual tension or whatever. It was just really weird.
So is that supposed to be a metaphor for, guys who want to screw their machines and stuff?
It's like that story about the guy who tried to have sex with his car.
Oh,
God. Yeah. It's awful. Forge wanted to fuck a robot. That's creepy.
Well, it's more of a character than he's had in 20 years since he's in production. Let's put it that way. All right.
Wasn't he a bad guy recently too, though? Like in one else's.
When he was introduced? No, actually, yeah, he became a bad guy, didn't he? He turned on them during Astonishing. Yeah.
I didn't read that story arc, but he had like gray hair and stuff. What happened?
Astonishing became the irrelevant book that didn't mean anything to continuity, because when it was Joss Whedon's, it wasn't coming out soon enough, and then when it went over to Warren Ellis, it just became a completely irrelevant. This is just an X-Men book with X-Men stories where it doesn't have to tie into anything. That's when I had a problem. That's when I stopped.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think anybody really reads that book anymore. Astonishing X-Men. A couple people do.
Yeah, but the thing that's happened since then is, well, I mean, during Astonishing, Uncanny, of course, Uncanny took a backseat to X-Men during the Grant Morrison era. Then it took a backseat to Astonishing during this era. Uncanny was extremely bland at this point. I remember reading, I was like, oh yeah, Whedon's run is great. Let's have a look what's going on in Uncanny at this point. I bring it up, I read it, and I'm like, ugh. Like, the characters didn't seem like the characters. Rogue was back. She's back in her green and yellow costume with Gambit. Yeah. They did stories with her and Gambit's relationship and stuff, but it just, their voices of the characters weren't there, and I think it was because it was still Chuck Austin. He stayed on, and I was not a fan of his.
Or was it when Claremont came back?
Claremont came back, but he was not doing Uncanny, was he?
I think he was, actually.
He did Uncanny in 2000, but I don't know whether he...
Okay. Regardless, his run was not very good. The whole the Uncanny X-Men was very boring. Like, I don't like looking back on like the 2000s going on up. I don't think any memorable stories came out of Uncanny at all.
Well, until Second Coming and all that, that's when Uncanny became the flagship title again.
Yeah,
lately it's become the bad guy book, but
yeah, which is pretty good actually. I don't mind that.
It's a good book.
Yeah, it was cool.
But anyway, so then make X-Men just kind of go along. I can't remember any real memorable storylines other than what's going on in Astonishing until, and this was a couple of years later, mind you, because of John Cassaday's art is fantastic. Joss Whedon's writing is fantastic, but dear God, to get them to get a book out. So 2 years later, the whole thing where Kitty Pryde she had to go in a bullet and get shot off into space and fly away in a bullet to stop it from hitting, what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you didn't read that one, or did you?
I did, but I still what?
I didn't, like I said, I didn't read the full arc, but I did get the giant side, like the last issue of his run. And basically, I don't know how she gets in the bullet, but she phased in the bullet, and she's heading off into space, and it's heading down to Earth. A lot of the heroes are gathering together to try to stop it. Cyclops basically,
where's this bullet come from?
I think it came from the planet where
from the break world.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Cyclops
ships they attack with giant bullets.
Yeah, because nothing. It's going at such a high, such a fast speed, and I guess the metal around it is so impenetrable that nothing can really stop it. Whereas with the ship, it would just kind of. No one's in the bullet except for Kitty, because she got there because she phased through it. But Cyclops basically ends the fight on Break World, and I'm not too clear as to what happens there, but I guess they just end the war that might have happened between Break World and Earth. The bullet's heading towards Earth, and then Kitty essentially phases herself and the bullet through the planet and saves everybody in the process. And it's actually a really cool moment. It's basically
and because she stays, she goes off into space, nobody can get her back or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like she can't get out of the bullet. Okay. And she doesn't come back for a lot of years.
Well,
so cool. Magneto basically uses his powers to bring it back.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think I know I've heard things that said that Joss Whedon's entire intention was to give Kitty a great moment to the Great Book and then kill her off. Or not kill her off, but send her away. Because before Astonishing X-Men, Kitty Pryde she'd been in Excalibur for years and years, and then she had disappeared completely, and this was Kitty Pryde's reascension to mainstream character, only to send her off again. But
but it was done so well, though, I wouldn't have minded it at all, even if she came back.
No, My one thing between this entire era we're going to talk about is that, dear God forbid that Colossus and Kitty Pryde ever get together. Because they get together in this, and they do stuff for their relationship, and it's all nice, and then she goes off in this bullet. And then she comes back, and then we'll get to that in a second with
Okay.
Glossonaut. Alright then, so the next big thing that happens, other than that, and this is actually probably before that happened, well, because of the timing, but whatever, was the House of M.
Oh yeah,
which was great in my opinion.
This was
I didn't actually read it.
This was the crossover with the Avengers where Wanda decided the world wasn't perfect, so her hex powers, but nobody still knows how they work. They're magic, so they can do whatever the writer says they want. They can.
Yeah, the infamous line by Joe Quesada, obviously.
Yeah. So her powers can do whatever they want. So here they go. They reformat the universe, including making Magneto into Jor-El. If anybody saw that drawing. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the artist who did this book. He's obviously.
You're not a fan of Olivia Coipel?
Well, I'm not a fan of the guy who traces people's pictures and puts real faces of like.
Oh, that's Greg Land.
Yeah, Greg Land,
There we go.
where, again, Marlon Brando is Magneto. No,
I didn't know that was actually who it was supposed to be.
yeah.
That's really cool.
But yeah, anyway, so the story itself, the world's done, and the Magneto family are on top of the world. Magneto's the king and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But he ends up killing Quicksilver, so Scarlet Witch goes nuts and says, no more mutants, which has kind of been the driving force of the X-Men ever since until recently. So all the mutants, most of the mutants in the world get depowered, other than, of course, the A-list X-Men characters, but,
Of course.
convenience.
Which makes the whole thing irrelevant, because what's the point in doing that if you're not going to make huge changes?
Well, originally Xavier and Magneto were, but then they went back on that. But yeah, they originally, a lot of characters, Jubilee, Xavier, Magneto, a lot of the Brotherhood, they all lost their powers.
This is spot, just right after that thing happens, when Wanda says those three words, when the first person they think about, like the X-Men, they think about Wolverine, like, what if he lost his powers and Adamantium's killing him? And they go in and find him, and it's like, oh shit, Wolverine's dead, but no, suckers.
Yeah. Not gonna take Wolverine's powers off him, what he'd take us for. Yeah, so, House of M, for our reviewer who have read it, I mean, Andrew, you haven't said you haven't. Frank, have you got an opinion on it?
I thought it was good. I thought the whole thing about no one remembering what had happened except for Wolverine and that girl with the strange powers, she knew everything. I think she was the girl that's on X Factor later on, Layla Miller.
Mm.
And the whole thing with them starting to recruit people, and then you get to see other people like non-mutants, or maybe the whole thing with Spider-Man, who everyone thought was a mutant, but he knew he wasn't. So he was kind of like, camouflaged into that whole mutant superior world. It was good. I liked the whole storyline. And the end game of that, just the final battle with no one dying basically, and then just, no more mutants thing was a big thing. Was the closest thing they've had since this was before Civil War, but it was like the Civil War for the mutants, in the sense that it just had such a big impact on the whole world. But I liked it. I thought it was good.
It definitely changed the X-Men books forever, at least for the next few years. The new idea was that the mutants are going extinct, so this was the beginning of Scott Summers becoming what he is now, of saying he needs to screw being the Boy Scout, screw Xavier's thing of coexistence. We need to embrace more of a Magneto side of thinking, because otherwise we're going to die out. And that was it, because they're getting killed off and all that stuff in the usual stuff, as well as being an extinct race. And I mean, I know the idea of this was to make it so that mutants are more special again, because I know during the Grant Morrison era and the following era, mutants had become, hey, there's 200 students at Xavier's school and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's like millions of mutants through the whole world.
I can tell what they're trying to basically eliminate stuff that Grant Morrison had done, because they didn't love what he had done in his book, editorially wise. And the fans are so kind of it was the reviews of it was running very polarizing, and people were they're scared about what was going to happen. So they did this to kind of take that away and just go back to the stuff before Grant Morrison's run. But the problem was that nothing really happened afterwards, and the effects of M-Day, what they're calling it M-Day, didn't really change too much, other than the fact that...
Or at least they did until they decided not to anymore. Like, every major character that lost their powers regained their powers or became a vampire, Jubilee. You know. So, yeah.
That whole Dracula thing. If we ever get to talk about that,
we're gonna talk about
shit, man.
We're gonna talk about it for a while.
That was during the time when me and Frank were doing a podcast on comics, and we were just like, "What the hell?"
You were sitting out the whole time.
Yeah, we were reading that stuff and reviewing it. That was no good.
It was just that, that moment in time where everywhere you saw vampires. True Blood and Twilight and whatnot. Just awful.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So, yeah, M-Day happens, and in the following sort of books, the X-Men become obsessed with, preserving
finding
their
mutants.
species and finding new mutants, stuff like that. The breakout book of this era was a new book by Matt Fraction, which was...
Breakout? You mean Uncanny X-Men, or are you talking about something else?
No, Legacy.
Oh, okay. Oh, jeez.
Right.
I thought you were going to say Uncanny X-Men. Oh, God.
Yeah, the breakout of the thing at this point was Legacy, which was an Xavier book, which when it started was superb, where Xavier had lost his memory or something.
Wait, did you say Matt Fraction or Mike Carey?
Oh, Mike, was it McCary?
Yeah, it was Mike Carey.
Okay, Mike Carey, sorry. I'm
That's what
terrible
got
with names. Anybody who saw the last podcast where I called Chuck Austin Chuck Dixon, I don't know. Unless it's like Chris Claremont or Jim Lee, I'm terrible with names, alright?
Okay.
So yeah. Mike Carey's Legacy, where Xavier got... Okay, yeah, the end of... Sorry, this was after Messiah War, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Never mind. Okay, so they go along, they're all survivalists and stuff, but then the big thing that happens is a new mutant is born, which of course would end up being Hope Summers.
Yep.
So there's a massive war between lots of factions over this kid, and after battle over this kid, Bishop, for some reason that's still not properly been explained.
They haven't explained it, yeah.
No, he turns on Xavier and shoots Xavier.
Yep.
And wants
For
to
some goddamn
wants to
reason.
kill the kid, and we still don't know why. And that sets up.
We do know why.
Do you know why?
No, I think they explain it at some point that, like, I don't know if he had a vision or something like that, Bishop, I mean. But the whole thing was that he was 100% sure that Hope was going to grow up to be, like, this empress, worse than Apocalypse ever was. And that's why he wanted to kill her.
So why did he kill Xavier then?
Oh, I don't know that.
Was he holding the baby?
I know. What was that?
No, I think he's trying to shoot Cable, but he teleported away. I think he accidentally shot Xavier. I think that's what happened.
Oh, right.
So yeah, Xavier's dead, but then in Legacy they bring him back, and that's where the whole thing where he's got this kind of guilt trip of he's lost a lot of his memory and he's trying to bring it back, and as he gets his memory back, he realizes that Xavier in the comics is kind of a dick, so he wants to atone for all the deaths that he's caused, and there's these awesome flashback moments where you see all the characters that have died from him going into battle as if it's like a war and stuff. Really, really good stuff there. Magneto comes into that, depowered. I really enjoyed that book. But going back to Messiah War, Messiah Complex, whatever.
Second Coming and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll go to Second Coming in a second, but Messiah War and all that. Anybody got any opinions on that?
I've not checked out Messiah War. I do intend to do that at some point, because I heard it's a pretty good, like, X-Force and Cable story. And I think these stories are really centered on trying to make Hope seem as important as possible, and the build-up stories are actually really good. From what I've heard, like the idea of just trying to preserve this one person, which could change the face of mutant kind for the good or for the bad, I thought was really cool. Everybody's just going at it, going crazy. The only bad part about this was, which I think may not become an issue later in the future, was they were taking out all of the big X-Men villains, even ones that were big in the 90s and stuff. They're taking them out like one by one. Like Sinister gets killed and Psi Complex, but he gets brought back anyway, so it doesn't matter. Then it's Strife.
I want to say Sabretooth died at some point as well.
I think so.
During Wolverine Origins.
Sabretooth became a good guy for a while, didn't he? And so did Juggernaut.
Mystique too, yep.
Mystique, Juggernaut, and Sabretooth all joined the X-Men during the periods we've been talking about, and then, as far as I remember, Sabretooth dies.
Yep. I thought the build stories were good. I didn't read them all, but I've heard nothing but really good things about them. I heard, Psi Complex kind of drags on a little bit, but the idea of... I just heard it was a good X-Men storyline, crossover kind of story. I've heard they're good. I do want to check them out. I don't love Hope. I think she is the most overhyped character in comics, but the build-up stories for Hope were very good. That's what I'm saying about that.
Yeah.
Did you read it, Frank, or no?
I did. The whole thing about the new X-Force, being led by Wolverine, that was good. They had some interesting characters in Warpath and X-23 and stuff like that.
That's the X-Force where Cyclops again had become a bit of a dark character at this point, and had made this team that was just about going out and killing the villains and assassinating the villains to eliminate all threats to mutants, because otherwise we're going to lose even more of them, if I was correct.
Yeah, exactly. But I do agree with you on the whole Hope thing. I think she was overhyped, and when there came a moment when she came back and actually said, okay, this is my power, it was like, really? That's it?
Yeah. The moment that I didn't like her at all was during Kieran Gillen's first arc on Uncanny X-Men. And all the Celestials come down. There's this really big epic moment where they think the planet's they're gonna have to attack the Celestials. And then Hope just says, yeah, just get out of our planet, just go. Get out of here, just go. And they just leave because apparently they're super scared of her. And it's the most powerful thing in the universe, going up against this girl who just doesn't give a shit. She's just like, yeah, get out of here, I don't care. Get out of here. It was awful. It just... She's too over cocky, and I don't know. I just don't like her much.
So X-Force has started, which is basically an assassination team, which later on would become like Dark Angel and Wolverine and Phantom X and things like that, and Psylocke when she was brought back. They had those. A lot of rebirths, a lot of depowerings, a lot of again, we're going over the broad strokes here, folks, because so much happens and there's so many books during the modern era that we can't possibly cover them all, so we're covering the big stuff as best you can remember. So during the aftermath, there's this whole thing where Cable takes Hope, who's this newborn mutant, he takes her to the future, and he's running from Bishop and running from everything, and it's a Cable book.
Yeah. I didn't read it because I heard it got really...
Like he's shooting chain cannons with the baby attached to his chest. It's silly. But at the same time, the X-Men's mansion is destroyed for the 200th time. But this time they decide, you know what? We're not wanted in this country anymore. Cyclops has built up a lot of animosity with the humans, the human government, the Avengers even, because of during the Civil War, the Marvel Civil War, the X-Men were kind of put on the side of, they were on the opposite side to Iron Man, I want to say.
Mm-hmm. They're being watched by Sentinels, yeah.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of animosity there. So Cyclops basically just says, you know what? Screw America, we're going to form our own country. So they raise Asteroid M, the original Asteroid M, which was in the bay or something like that. It was under the sea in San Francisco. Because they moved to San Francisco for one point. The Xavier Mansion is destroyed. They moved to San Francisco. They set up a base there. And, I was skipping over this whole thing. The mayor of San Francisco welcomes them there, and in the X-Men timeline, they build this entire base. They're there for about 2 months or something. Not in real time, but in X-Men timeline, they're there. They set up this entire base. The mayor said welcome to them. The people, like mutants, were on the streets. So am I correct in assuming, because this is in San Francisco, this is supposed to be an allegory for, again, the X-Men as homosexuals. Is that what I'm gathering here? Because they're more welcomed in San Francisco. Is that what
I have no idea. Maybe?
I mean, they'd always had that thing in the X-Men books where San Francisco was this nice place, but yeah, I was thinking that's, where they were going, touching there.
You're gonna have to ask Matt Fraction. I have no idea.
Yeah, so that was that whole thing. Well, it was a Claremont thing from back in the day, apparently.
Well, no, but yeah. I get you.
So yeah, they're in San Francisco for not very long, and then they discover that Asteroid M is under the sea, and I believe there's some sort of loads of cock-ups in San Francisco, and the mayor asked them to leave, and all this stuff. So eventually, they raise Asteroid M. There was this whole thing where they all went their separate ways after the mansion was destroyed for a while before they came back to San Francisco. But anyway, they're all back together. I'm piecing my thoughts together of everything I've read and so much stuff as I'm talking here. But they raise Asteroid M, and it's named
Utopia.
Utopia. Thank you. Utopia, and they all move on and they form the base. It's basically their own country off the side of America, and this is the beginning of the mutants and the X-Men becoming their own people, in a way, of just saying, screw Xavier's vision of coexistence, we need to survive, because there's not many of us left. So Scott invites every mutant to Utopia and basically becomes Magneto. In a lot of ways, during this era, Utopia is the same as Genosha from earlier in the decade, and Magneto himself turns up there. And this was one of my least.
Before all that, I think you haven't mentioned it. The whole thing with they raising up the Asteroid M, they do all that with the help of Namor, and he joins the X-Men as well.
Yeah, because won't they say something like Namor's the first mutant or something?
Yeah,
They've said Apocalypse is the first mutant, then they said Namor's the first mutant. I don't know.
It's confusing.
So is Namor said that he's a mutant now? Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah.
I think he does. Maybe he's overconfident, doesn't want to accept it, but I'm guessing he's just a mutant that had.
He's an Atlantis underneath Utopia.
I have no idea.
Because Atlantis was destroyed, I think, if I'm remembering this right, and they set up a new Atlantis under Utopia, and Namor lived under them, and that's how he got to know the. And then he put an X on his belt and became an X-Man. So yeah. Then, as I was saying a minute ago, Magneto turns up on Utopia, and this is my least favourite part of the entire modern stuff, because one thing we haven't spoke about is, during the modern era, it became the Cyclops, look at him, he's a badass book, which I did like this Cyclops more, but it did become the Cyclops Emma Frost Wolverine book on all the titles. All of the characters were reduced to cameos, like Storm and Gambit, and a lot of those characters were just kind of there in the background, not doing much. The only reason Rogue got to do anything is because she took over the Legacy book.
That book is good. That book is more, yeah. It was more centered on like the other smaller X-Men characters, but it worked. I felt, at least. I felt that they knew that Uncanny X-Men was going to be focusing on those big characters. They took that chance to make Legacy for everyone book, except for Cyclops, Wolverine, and Emma Frost.
Yeah, so Cyclops, Wolverine, and Emma Frost are the big people in the books, and this is my problem with this, is Magneto basically bows to Scott, and Scott is obviously basically now Magneto too. So now Magneto is really submissive to Scott Summers, and he obviously says, "No, Charles, you're irrelevant now." And Xavier, for years and years, just kind of sat at Utopia doing nothing as this irrelevant character, which was another crying shame for a great character. And again, just Magneto became Scott Summers' servant, basically, and that's not Magneto to me. I'm not a fan of that at all.
Magneto's still, like, even in Bendis' run right now, he really hasn't done much.
Well, in Bendis' run, they're revealing this whole thing of maybe, which I was hoping for the entire time, that Magneto was really out for himself and has secretly been manipulating Scott, and I would love to find out that Magneto was the one who made Cyclops into the character he is today by subtly being there as his sort of manipulative right hand. I'd love that, because it'd bring Magneto back as I like Magneto. I don't like Magneto as an X-Man who is under command of Cyclops. I don't like that at all.
Because he hasn't done anything.
It's like Doctor Doom being friends with Reed Richards. It's just
Which
does not make sense. Yeah, I think it's just wow.
Oh well, I just if you're gonna make a big move like that, do something with it. And they didn't do anything with it, so it was just kind of a waste of time. It really was.
The only thing Magneto actually did when he got to Utopia was bring Kitty back.
Yeah, that was his proof. He was going to prove himself to Scott, and what he did was bring Kitty Pryde back, but she was still in phase for a while.
Yeah.
She had like wear a suit or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't read much of Fraction's run, but what did you guys think of it? Because I've heard people say that it's like the second worst thing to happen to the X-Men since Chuck Austin or something. I don't know. What do you guys think of it?
I like Utopia. I like the idea of them, them basically Scott Summers becoming Magneto, but again, it was what they're doing with Cyclops is to the detriment of every other X-Men character. Every other X-Men character was reduced to a cameo. Nightcrawler was doing nothing. Colossus was doing nothing. Storm was doing nothing. All of them were just there in... Like, Storm would show up in a panel, electrocute somebody, and then that would be Storm for the book. Like, it was just getting to that point, and that kind of stayed until the Schism, in a lot of ways. I was not a fan of that. Again, Xavier and Magneto being reduced to Xavier nothing and Magneto almost nothing. It was just... They were sacrificing great characters for the sakes of one character. And yes, they did make Cyclops cool or whatever. They did make Cyclops more of a he's not the Boy Scout anymore. He's much more Magneto than he is Xavier at this point. And I did like that. And I still liked him and Emma Frost's relationship. Emma started to almost cheat on him with Namor at this point.
Yeah.
I want an X-Men team book. I don't want Cyclops and Friends.
Yeah, they should have called it that. That'd be a great title.
There's an argument to be made that maybe Uncanny X-Men should be called Cyclops and the X-Men, so you could have Wolverine and the X-Men, the other book being that, and just,
Wolverine and the X-Men? Yeah. But, I really don't want to read it, because I look at it, and it has Greg Land's artwork, which looks awful, and then it has... Like you said,
he not when we spoke about Jor-El in the book?
Yeah.
Does he also trace porn?
Yeah, he does that all the time.
Action scenes.
They proved that during for the 500 cover, he reuses some of the images for his other covers too. Which, he used to be a good artist. I don't know what happened to him, but oh well. But I just heard bad things about his run. I'm not going to read it anyway.
But it looks alright. Greg Land's art looks good for a poster, but it doesn't look good to tell a story in motion.
Yeah, which he's still being able to do. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to read the run anyways. It doesn't really interest me. But that's what happened during that time period. And yeah, it doesn't seem that all that much happened during that run. But except for the Dark Avengers stuff. Do you guys want to talk about that too?
Well, yeah, in a second. Frank, do you want to cover? I mean, we've covered a lot. We've skipped over a lot of stuff. We've just kind of gone over the bullet points. But anything you want to talk about leading up to or during the whole,
Second Coming,
Utopia and all that? Yeah.
Well, as you said, we've basically covered everything. Just in broad strokes. But I do think it should be noted that during this time, X-Force was, in my opinion, the best X-Men book out there. I really liked X-Force.
The last couple of years ago, when it was the Dark Angel saga and stuff, it was freaking superb.
That's Uncanny X-Force.
Yeah, X-Force with Chris Yost, and those guys.
That was when it was really good. But you said it was good before that?
Yeah, it was. And they had this artist with them, Clayton Crane.
And Mike Choi, yeah.
Yeah, that was great. Great book. I mean, it's a weird kind of art. It's just it's drawn, but it's also digitalized and maybe 3D. It's really weird. It's really cool. Maybe if you have seen something there's a mini series by Ghost Rider, Road to Damnation.
Yep.
Don't know if you've read it, but it's the same guy, and the art is just breathtaking, man.
it's very dark and it suits the title. I've read a couple issues here and there, but I haven't read the whole thing. But what I've seen, both the artists do a great job. They make it fit just the tone of the book. They make it fit it's a dark book. It's a very different kind of X-Men book, but it still has elements of the X-Men in it, and you can feel for the characters, which is very good. So X-Force, from X-Force to Uncanny X-Force, has been kind of the highlight, including X-Men Legacy, and maybe a small solo X-Men title here and there. But until Uncanny X-Force, most of the other X-Men titles are kind of bland, I'm not going to lie. And they kept picking writers that didn't seem suited to write X-Men. Like, Ed Brubaker was the Captain America guy. And then
he's always been a Captain America guy. Yeah, you're right.
There'd be good single issues, or there'd be good character moments, or it would never go anywhere. The big story would be just kind of, oh, okay.
Yeah. So they had Ed Brubaker had a couple good stories here and there. Like his last story before he left was actually pretty good because it was like a Colossus, Wolverine, and Nightcrawler like buddy story where they go off, I think, to Russia or something and just fight off Sentinels. And then Cyclops and Emma Frost are like in the 70s doing whatever it is they're doing.
I remember reading that one. That was when they first went to San Francisco because the mansion had been destroyed and they all had to go off in their separate ways because they thought the X-Men were done. So Wolverine, Nightcrawler, and Colossus go to visit Colossus' hometown, right? So they did. That was all good stuff. But at the same time, there's this magician in San Francisco that's making this whole area of San Francisco into the 70s, and like Angel grows, the long hair that he now has. But
yeah. So like that story felt like you just tell about the premise of that story, and it feels like a Claremont story that happened in the 80s. Whereas you go back to the Utopia stuff, while it's good, it's not. It's more bland than it is fun, I guess, for me. I know I didn't read Ed Brubaker's Big Shi'ar story. I heard that's actually pretty fun and good.
Yeah, okay, let's cover the stuff we've missed. There is a lot of stuff we've missed, but there's the big ones, which is, first of all, Deadly Genesis. Deadly Genesis was the book where they retconned in that there was another team between the original team and the all-new team that went in to Krakoa, and Krakoa off them all. And this was the introduction of a character who was in the First Class movie, which was Darwin.
Darwin? There we go.
Because evolution, that stuff. So yeah, that happened, and they retconned it to say that Krakoa was not really a living island, or it was a living island, but it wasn't a sentient living island, and all of that was it was all a trick by Xavier to cover up the fact that the other team had died there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't read it.
No, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did read it, yeah. It's just, they kind of tried to explain the origins of, because this whole thing was leading up to Vulcan, right?
Yeah, Vulcan.
Yeah.
He's
Vulcan
huge in the cosmic titles and stuff. Yeah, like Vulcan, I think after the X-Men stuff, went on to do the Shi'ar story, and then, like, in the cosmic books, he's huge. I didn't read Deadly Genesis, though, or the Shi'ar thing. All I know is that Vulcan came out of that being a huge bad guy.
Yeah, Vulcan was the third Summers brother, or whatever, and he was put on this team, and they were all killed, and Vulcan was the only survivor. Eventually Darwin would also come back, but they all got killed. Krakoa was much more of a villain, or much more of a threat during this, almost to the point that you were like, that doesn't really make any sense. Like, why would the island keep the original team as hostages and not be much more of a problem for the all-new team, but for this team that he just straight up murdered them all? Doesn't really make sense. But I enjoyed it. This was the story, however, where Banshee was killed.
Oh, right, yeah.
I mean, a couple of like, Moira McTaggart had just been killed. I believe she died. Did she die of the legacy virus?
Yep.
Covered that last time. Yeah, so then Banshee was basically out of the books. He was moping about that, and he came back for this one book, and a plane flew into him, and he blew up.
That's awful. No.
Yeah.
Oh man. And then they did I think after this or before this, they did Ex Necrotia or something. Was it like Blackest Night?
Well, we'll get to that. That's later on.
Okay.
So yeah, Deadly Genesis was all that, and then that introduced Vulcan. So then later on, the third Summers brother, which came out of nowhere, where's the explanation? So he was born. Okay, so when the plane thing happened and the Shi'ar kidnapped the Summers' parents, she was pregnant with Vulcan. Okay, so the Shi'ar, being dicks, killed her and ripped their baby violently out of her stomach, and he was raised as a Shi'ar person, but then somehow got back to Earth to be an X-Man? I haven't read it.
I haven't read it either. That's what I didn't know that they ripped the baby out of.
Yeah, there was this really bad. I've heard about it. I haven't read it, but yeah. So Frank, do you know anything about Vulcan, or do I have to Wikipedia this?
No, it's just I didn't remember the whole thing about him. Just how exactly did he escape or whatever from the Shi'ar Empire or something like that. But the story itself, it wasn't bad. It's just it had a lot of holes into it.
Yeah, okay. That's what happens when you try to retcon things up. There's going to be something missing. But,
Wait, what's his powers, Vulcan? So...
Oh, God. I have to look that up. Hang on.
Oh, there we go. Jesus, there's a paragraph. Ability. Vast energy absorption, manipulation, transformation, projectile powers, enable flight, force field, projection, manipulation, solid energy constructs, life support, unlimited radiation, variable energy brass, limited superpower replication and repression, energy siphon and disruption, psychotic resistance. Okay, he's Superman, basically.
Oh, God. Damn.
How? Well, they've got him in a cape in this picture. How is he related to those two if he's so much more powerful than those two?
Maybe the Shi'ar
Okay, let me
tampered with this genetic thing. Maybe.
Genetic code? It's gotta be it.
Vulcan first appeared in X-Men Deadly Genesis 1, written by Ed Brubaker, a story which ran from January to July 2006. Vulcan then appeared in the Rise and Fall of the Shi'ar Empire storyline, also written by Brubaker. After Brubaker's stories and Canny, Christopher Yost picked up the baton with X-Men Emperor Vulcan in a miniseries that told it. Okay, this is just saying what he was in, not the whole thing. Okay, his origins, here we go. Vulcan's history began on the Shi'ar throne world as an unborn child of Christopher Summers, later known as Corsair, and Catherine Summers, the parents of Cyclops and Havoc. Catherine was pregnant when the Summers were inducted by Deken, the Magister of the Shi'ar Imperium. The unborn child was seemingly killed when the Mad Emperor, in retaliation for her attempt by Corsair to escape, stabbed Catherine and killed her. Sounds like the latest episode of Game of Thrones. The fetus was removed from Catherine's lifeless body and placed in an incubation accelerator, which was used to breed slaves. As a result, the child was aged to the prime of adolescence. Okay, sent to Earth to become a slave for Eric the Red, the Emperor's hand on Earth. He escaped and was found by Moira McTaggart, with little or no memories. Okay, so he was sent with Eric the Red during the Phoenix Saga, but somehow escaped and was found by Moira with no memories. That's how.
Okay. Okay.
So then he was killed off during Deadly Genesis, but then survived, and since then he's got all these superpowers from really nowhere, and hates his brother and hates Xavier, and this was the storyline where Cyclops and Xavier really fell out and never repaired their relationship, as Cyclops had redone the mansion at this point, and Xavier was almost a guest there, and he found out that he'd kept this third brother a secret and told Xavier to piss off, basically, and that's kind of the start of Xavier. Until he died during the Psych Complex and came back, he was never really accepted as the leader ever again after that.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Vulcan. I haven't read too many stories at the minute, granted, so I don't know. He's just kind of there for me.
I'm not a fan of Vulcan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Frank, what about you?
No, it's just I read some of the stuff from him in space, fighting Havoc and Polaris and stuff like that. It's just, not good.
It's like, oh, there's another Summers brother, okay, and then all this stuff. It's like, and they give him, I just read it, a paragraph of powers. It's just too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get you. But Havoc was, talking about Havoc got in a Summers family. Havoc basically had more of an importance in the cosmic books too, kind of saving the universe.
Him and Polaris were captured by the Shi'ar, if I remember right.
Yeah, even though like right now that he's a leader of the Avengers, Uncanny Avengers, he's like before that he was doing huge things too, like helping out the universe and all that stuff. So I think
not in relation to the main books, he was just kind of off in the doing his own thing. Yeah.
So, like some of the other characters that weren't there anymore did do. Granted, not as popular stuff as like in the X-Men book, but they were doing bigger and better things. But yeah, I don't know. Vulcan's there for me. There was what was the other storyline that happened during this point?
This was the thing where X Factor was introduced, the new X Factor, which was written by Peter David, which was like.
Have you read that?
Yeah,
I've read
some of them. It's like a noir kind of book where they're private eyes for mutants kind of thing.
Yeah, I assure you, it's a great read. Really.
I've heard
it
nothing but really. It's getting canceled, right?
Well, it was the idea of their kind of the superhero problems, and they're almost this kind of dick. What's the guy's name who Captain Picard always dresses up as? You know, it's that kind of thing. Where the privatized from superhero, but the driving force of the book is the character drama.
Yeah. Exactly.
With
you've got Madrox and there's Monad and the what's the name of Banshee's daughter?
Oh, well, isn't she just called Banshee now?
Siren.
Siren.
Yeah. There we go. You've got Richter and Shatterstar. Richter loses his powers over M-Day. And you've got Strong Guy from the old Cable X-Force.
Yep.
It was a book where he took a bunch of really like Z-list characters and made them really good. And like Madrox, this was his breakout because this was the introduction of the whole dupe thing where. You know, he had copies of himself and things like that, where they'd lived their whole life thinking they were really him and stuff. Was this really him? And yeah,
that's incredibly interesting to me too.
Yeah,
it's really interesting because maybe you can like regard it as a really not useless, but maybe not such a powerful asset.
See, here's the thing with
the team, but
the
it's
X-Men
amazing.
The thing with me is that the X-Men have so many books that I'm a bit of an X-Men snob in that. Because there's so many books, I don't want to read them all. So I'm a bit of an X-Men I want the A-list characters. I'm not interested in all the other stuff, really.
Right.
Yeah. But carry on what you're saying about that.
But I do know that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, just go ahead. Yeah.
Like Peter David did like a really good run in like the '90s with X Factor. I want to try to pick up that where he did the same kind of stuff, but the other X Factor stuff that came about, like he took the clone thing and went to a whole new level with it, from what I've heard, and just made things. He was ignoring. He wasn't necessarily ignoring too much of the other X-Men stuff that was happening, but he was doing his own thing, and working with smaller elements that are happening in the other X-Men books, and making his own title as important as possible, and just as fun as an X-Men book should be. And from what I've heard from guys like Ron Frederick and just reviewers on the internet, that character drama stuff, which Peter David excels at, was really good, and just
but
didn't
they also have a baby where he ended up eating it?
I have no idea.
I don't remember that.
like, didn't he and I think it's Monet or was it something like that? They had a baby or something like that, and I don't know. I've just heard about this, and they ended up absorbing it.
Oh my god.
Oh no, yeah, just. I think I think I know what you're talking about. It's the whole thing with Madrox it's in a relationship with Siren, right? So they think she's pregnant, but actually this whole storyline about Madrox maybe possibly not being able to have children, and what was inside her was a dupe.
Okay.
Oh.
So that was
awful.
So that was let's go back on the character being pregnant.
Yeah, that was really awful.
Unless you're you're not allowed to have kids.
You took me a complete surprise by that. I thought you was at like a dinner table just like eating a baby that they just took out. God damn.
That would be a completely different book.
Peter David wrote that. Oh my god.
Yeah, but no, the thing with me was again, I like the sound of this stuff, but I wish that this could be done for the more A-list characters. Because again, at this point, half of the A-list cast were doing nothing.
Yeah.
They were just kind of there in the background of Cyclops and Emma, Frost and Wolverine.
Yeah.
I would have really liked seeing someone like Gambit on this book.
Well, he had some good stuff in.
Awesome.
He had some good stuff in Legacy with Rogue and Xavier, but then he just kind of disappeared. I think he had his own solo series. Eventually, he ended up having a series with X-23, which was weird because they ended up having this whole romance between him and X-23. Which...
No, but it wasn't really a romance. It was implied, but nothing really happened.
Yeah, but she's like underage. She knows really weird.
And the clone of one of your friends, you know? It's just really weird.
Hey, he's got to get somewhere, man. He's got to go for gold.
Yeah.
But, oh yeah.
Well, I think during the whole series we've been talking about, also a lot of characters were brought back. Of course, Colossus, Psylocke was brought back. Magic was brought back from Hell or wherever. Legion.
Limbo.
You know, yeah.
There we go.
A lot of those. Yeah.
I think those are all the big, that I can recall, the big stuff that came out back during that period. Oh yeah, the new X-Men. The new team. Like the new, like Helion, the new Rock guy, do you know what I'm talking about? The new,
Oh yeah, when they tried to do another young person's book of characters that'll disappear.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was X-Men Academy or Young X-Men, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
They always do a good book with that. They always did, like Generation X and stuff like that. But other than the New Mutants characters, they always just disappear and never come back.
Well, I did read that book, and you know, Helion was for a long time someone that they were like building up to be a really big player, you know, and he had something going with X-23, and there was this the Rock guy you mentioned, Rockslide. He was really funny, and he was just a great character, but you know. It lasted for about a year or two, maybe, and now they're just, you know, where are they? I don't know.
I think they show up every now and again in Wolverine the X-Men. We'll talk about that later, but they're just in the background, I think.
Right.
But, oh well. I've heard good things about the book, but it didn't last up to the potential it could have been. But oh well.
Now, was Uncanny X-Force before Schism?
It was before Second Coming. It came out after Second Coming.
Okay, right. So, Second Coming then. That's the book from a couple of years ago, where finally Hope's coming back to the present. But of course, she's here, so everybody's got to fight for over her, and boom, and massive explosion, and massive fights. One of my favourite parts of this book is that at one point Rogue kind of takes everybody's powers, and she has this great moment, which is cool. Nice to see Rogue doing stuff again.
Yeah.
But they killed off a bunch of characters during this because the whole idea behind it was that one of the X-Men's main enemies brought back all of the X-Men's main enemies of the human side. They brought back the guy who was in the X-Factor team through what's his name?
I don't know what you're talking about.
What was his power?
He didn't have a power. The guy who was a friend of...
Could he control robots? Is that what you're
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Bastion brought back all the human characters from
Stryker.
They brought back Stryker.
Right. Yeah.
Brought back. I know. I mean, the guy who was the friend of Angel's, who ran the X Factor team until he turned evil and then he took over Genosha.
I know you're talking.
Yeah, him. They brought back all of them. Brought back Sabretooth's brother.
Okay.
All of those were part of this council to take out, and they had this really cool stuff where they were taking out all the teleporters. So I think Blink was. I think she was incapacitated. I don't think Blink was killed, but I think Vanisher was killed during this.
Yeah, he was.
A bunch of characters. I think.
Pixie too. She wasn't killed, but something happened to her.
Yeah.
Helion got his hands ripped off.
Yeah, that's it.
And then a couple other characters got really injured.
Yeah.
I think, and then the big one obviously is where Nightcrawler dies, which I think is the highlight of the whole thing, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely.
It was great to make. It was great, as a character death. Again, it's X-Men, so how long will it last? But the thing is, for me, is Nightcrawler hadn't been relevant in the books for years. So to me, it was like, okay, why? It doesn't really make a difference because what was Nightcrawler really doing?
Well, yeah, but he did make a difference. But once he died, it planted the seed for the thing about Wolverine, turning on Cyclops.
Well, yeah, he became relevant again by dying.
I think like his whole death was actually like the execution of the death was like perfect. I think it was done incredibly well. Like he made a difference in the battle, and he made a difference for both sides basically. Like Bastion was injured, and then Hope.
Because they were killing off all the teleporters, and he was the only one left.
Yeah.
And he saved Hope. Yeah.
But like it was executed very well, and I'm surprised that they really haven't brought him back yet. Other than the Age of Apocalypse version, they haven't brought back Nightcrawler yet, which I'm very happy about. I love the character.
They did a really good job with the death, where you got that moment where who have we lost, and Wolverine's just like, oh shit.
Yeah, but like they haven't brought him back yet. It's been like how many? It was I think the event was like in 2008 or something.
10. So
it's been like 3 years since they brought him back last, which is I love the character, but I don't want him to be brought back in this stupid fashion. I just wanted to have his moment, and he had his moment.
It's this kind of thing where you want the original stories to be good because the character died, and you want these great moments to mean something and keep a character dead if you're going to kill him, but at the same time you want the character back, so it's this sort of...
Exactly. I want him back because he really is one of my favorite X-Men, but if they bring him back stupidly, it's like it's going to ruin his death. But oh well.
See Captain America or Batman.
Yeah. Exactly. But I do feel that... Well, technically Batman wasn't dead, but I do feel that the whole event on its own, even though Hope did have those kind of cringeworthy moments, the whole thing was done really well. It wasn't kind of... I don't know, maybe it went down later on at some point, but the whole thing, from top to bottom, was one of the better X-Men events.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Second Coming. I thought it was a great book.
Yeah, Cable is, in my opinion, one of the most underrated X-Men characters of all time.
Oh yeah, because at that point he became... I never liked Cable, because I always had that stigma of the Rob Liefeld era, and I was never a fan of his. But then, during this, I really liked his father-daughter stuff with Hope, where he was kind of her protector. It was almost... You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Terminator.
Exactly.
Where they're going back from time, and the protector of this kid, who everybody's trying to kill...
And he didn't really act like a robot, but he had a militaristic kind of attitude that was kind of robot-ish. But
he was almost on a
But
since we're talking about X-Men and the second half of 2000s, have you read Cable and Deadpool?
Yeah, I was about to bring that up. Oh, I really want to. I've heard great things about the book. I really want to check it out at some point, but I was going to bring that up just to get people to read it.
This era was the breakout of the Deadpool thing, and I will say that I'm not a fan.
But that came out before the whole Deadpool thing.
I know, I'm just saying I'm not a fan of the fourth wall breaking, jokey Deadpool.
That's not really in the book though.
I know, I'm not talking about that book. I'm saying
oh, yeah.
This last decade we're talking about was the breakout of that, and I'm not a fan. I like Versa.
I'll get back to Cable and all this stuff, but I'm just going to make my quick point about Deadpool. What makes Deadpool work is when he's got a bit of humanity in him. Because from what I've read in Uncanny X-Force, and from what I read from some of Joe Casey's stuff, when you give him a human-like purpose, when you give him like a reason to not be too crazy, well, he's crazy.
I like him when he's in Uncanny X-Force because he's not breaking the fourth wall.
He did it a couple times, but what I'm trying to there's a couple moments on Uncanny X-Force where he's like, there's a really human moment where he's talking to the clone of the new Apocalypse kid, in his bed, and he compliments him. And it's a really human moment, and then there's a moment in the 5th issue or the 6th issue where Deadpool is kind of talking to Wolverine, explains to him why he's on the team, what he's doing. There are moments in that run that that are so human for Deadpool that it makes you care about him a little more. Whereas then you read Daniel Way's stuff and it's just crazy over the top.
Deadpool. But I liked that also in Second Coming. I thought that was a great thing that you did with him and Hope. I liked Hope a lot in Second Coming. She became a little bratish later on, but I liked her in Second Coming.
Yes.
At the end of the story, obviously, the big thing is she reveals her powers, and she's got everybody's powers. Because,
it's not the best, but yeah.
Sorry, I could have stayed there. Phone there. She's got everybody's powers. Oh my god. Who's
I
got
know,
their
man.
phone near the microphone? Move
I
it.
don't. I don't have it,
Whoever's got
man.
their mobile phone near a microphone.
I promise, I don't have
Okay.
it.
Every time I go, because they will be on the recording.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So she's got everybody's powers, and she uses it to win the day and all this stuff. And part of those powers is also the Phoenix, which sets up for the stuff that's been going on lately, or at least was lately last year.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody was thinking at one point she was going to be the reborn Jean Grey, which I'm glad she wasn't.
I'm so glad she wasn't. I'm really glad she
It was this close, though.
They were very close, but they didn't do it, thank God. But, oh well. Yeah, I thought, I don't love her power, but I love the ending with the Cable stuff that happened and all that stuff. I thought the whole thing was very well done.
I like her as the mutant messiah, sort of the mutant Jesus, when she goes around touching people and healing people and bringing their powers back and recharging their powers. I like that, but I think that's all she should have. I don't think she should have offensive powers as well. But again, that's the problem with comic books, isn't it? But
Yeah.
everybody's got to have blasty powers.
Hey, you gotta have them at some point, man. You gotta have them. But, oh well. Yeah, I don't love Hope. She's there. She did her thing. I kind of just, I don't want her to go away. I just don't want her to I don't want to be the highlight of every X-Men book anymore. That's just me. But, oh
Well, she's kind of not now.
Yeah, she's in Cable and X-Force, and it's obvious why she's in that book, but, you know, I just don't want her to be, like, the number one character in every X-Men book anymore. It's just me. But, yeah. I think after this was it Schism after this, or what was it?
Well, yeah, but we'll save Schism and all that for another time, because that's almost going into another era. But, we'll end it with Second Coming.
Okay.
Anything you guys want to talk about of the pre or current sort of Utopia era before the modern era? Before Marvel Now, anything before Schism that you want to touch on that we haven't?
Frank, you want to go first?
There's not really much I can think about. Really just, I have to say again, if you haven't checked out X Factor or X Force, you should. I think they're definitely the best books around that era.
Yeah, I think the best thing to say about the era is just the main X-Men titles, except for the crossovers and stuff that happened, were completely overhyped and weren't actually that great to begin with. And more of the second-tier titles, like what you mentioned, X Factor and X-Force and all those others. And
well, I think it suffered also from event fatigue. I think it's
of course.
Like by the time they'd get a storyline going, here come another year, another event.
So the smaller X-Men titles didn't have to deal with that too much. It was occasionally, but they were so in their own thing they didn't have to deal with it too much. Like Peter David said, he felt really happy about doing his own this smaller title because he didn't have to deal with crossovers all the time. I don't think the major X-Men titles were as good as the smaller ones. Because not a lot happened in the bigger titles.
No, I think they have their moments. I think they have character moments. If you enjoy, Emma Frost, if you enjoy these characters, seek out the issues that have their character arcs, but don't expect the overall story to be any good, really. It varies, but I don't think any story is well told, beginning, middle, and end during this entire era.
They have their moments. Like, there are some good stories from what I've heard, at least. There's the big crossovers you already mentioned, like Second Coming, Sci War, and Sci Complex. They're all really good.
If you just like mutants blasting each other with their powers, yeah. I think Second Coming was the best one for me because it wasn't just that. It had good character stuff as well.
It had the best artwork, too, out of all of them.
Yeah.
Because the second one had Ariel Olivetti, and his stuff has completely gone to another place, and I can't even look at his artwork anymore, because it looks very bland. But, other than that, there are some good stories in the main titles, but not as much as in the smaller titles. So, this section of the X-Men, not as big as the last section of Grant Morrison stuff, and maybe Chuck Austin, if you want to read that.
No. No. Unless you want to see Nightcrawler as a demon.
Or you want to see Angel and some other person having sex in the air. I wouldn't suggest you read those books. But if you want to, go ahead. and have some fun.
Okay, one thing I will touch on is this was introduced mainly during Uncanny X-Force, which we'll get into next time, but it was hinted at here. Was Angel changed back to regular Angel, but then he could at will turn into Archangel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was like
missed
there was
Uncanny
something.
X-Force.
So, how does that work? Because wasn't the whole idea of him having the metal wings that his other wings weren't there?
I don't know what started it.
Are they?
but-
Is it armor over his regular wings?
Well, on X-Force it was kind of, on Uncanny X-Force it was kind of like that. Yeah, it worked that way. But I don't know what the origin about that was.
And also during this era was the introduction of Angel's blood could heal people. Because,
What?
yeah. Angel's
Really?
blood heals people, yeah.
That's very weird. I didn't know
Because
about
he's
that.
an angel, get it? You know?
Oh. No, I
Right.
didn't hear about that one though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of stupid secondary mutations happened during the 2000s, let's put it that way.
Okay, but yeah, not the best era, but it did have some good moments. Is what we're trying to say. All right, that's basically it though for this era.
Yeah, that's pretty much. So yeah, we've just kind of rambled over the different stuff and covered. There's a lot of stuff we probably missed. If you want to, if any of you listening to this and you want to put in the comments any of the stuff that we missed or we didn't talk about, we'll bring it up next time before on the start of the show before we get into the next era, which will be Schism through to Marvel Now, which will.
And sorry for being so sporadic with the history, because we like jumped for like 4 years and then like, oh yeah, Deadly Genesis.
Yeah,
and then
because
back, like, 4
it's
years.
stuff we've read years ago. Whereas I think this next one will be much more chronological and much more in depth, because especially the stuff we're reading now, it's fresh in our memory.
Yeah, of course.
Like
Yeah,
I will have a
definitely.
lot more to say about All New X-Men than I would about the Gifted, because I've read it recently.
Okay, yeah.
Uh,
But yeah.
yeah, I think we did an alright job of it. So, for saying how complicated this X-Men stuff gets sometimes, with alternate futures and yeah.
Just talking about that.
Alright, catch you guys next time, hopefully.
Adios.
Right.
Catch you.
See ya.
Thanks.
Next time.